If you've ever watched old Nollywood movies like Isakaba, then you already know how this story ends. A false prophet, beheaded in the middle of the street. His body is set on fire, the crowd is cheering. But what if I told you that this story was not fiction? That behind that story, there was a real man, a pastor, a healer, a so-called prophet, and his name was Eddy Nawgu. And the things that he was accused of, you will not believe. Let's get into the story. So Eddy Nawgu, his real name was Edward Onoibuchi Okeke. He was born in 1957 in a small village called Nawgu in Anambra State. He didn't have much education. He didn't finish primary school. Instead, he went into woodwork and he started doing timber business in Jos Plateau State. But sometime in the mid-80s, something changed. Eddy came back to Anambra and he was claiming that he received a spiritual calling. He set up his own ministry called Anioma Healing Center, which to outsiders looked like a normal Christian healing ministry. But people who were close to him said the real name behind the scenes was Professor Eddy's Mystic Home of Wonders. He wasn't your typical church pastor. Eddy mixed Bible verses with charms, potions, cowries, incantations, name it, he was doing it. You could come to him with anything: sickness, court case, business wahala, relationship drama, anything. He had a spiritual solution for it. And this man was popular. Like, his compound in Nawgu became like a mini pilgrimage ground. People came from all over, Onitsha, Oka, even Lagos. Everybody wanted to see this powerful prophet, and not just poor people. Politicians, traders, even police were among his clients, and at his peak they called him Alusine Jioka, the deity that goes to church. I hope I pronounced that well. That's how much power that they believed that this man had. And you know how it is when someone starts moving like they're half man, half spirit, people begin to ask questions. Because like in his compound, there was a giant statue of a python. People were like, oh, it's a spiritual symbol. Others were like, I beg, this man is not a man of God. This is pure juju. You know, a local Catholic priest, in fact, multiple local Catholic priests started warning their members to stay away. There was even a chief in the area who clashed with him. One day, that chief sent his people to destroy part of Eddy's compound, break things, scatter everything. It didn't move Eddy. The more people tried to stop him, it seemed as if it made him more powerful. But then people started disappearing. Children, market women, young men. Stories started spreading that Eddy was involved in kidnappings and even ritual killings, that when people entered his compound, some of them never came out. Those rumors were wild. That he was working with armed robbers, that he provided charms that made bullets bounce off armed robbers, that he kept human skulls in his shrine. The rumors were endless. There were even claims that he was receiving spiritual materials from an Indian occult society. This was not just village gossip. People actually started reporting these things. But when they went to the police, nothing. Eddy had connections. Big men were protecting him. So he was untouchable. Now, if you remember in the early 2000s in the Southeast, you remember the Bakassi boys. They were not police. They were not the army. They were state-sponsored vigilantes, and they were known for one thing: violence, extreme violence. The Bakassi boys had machetes, guns, and juju that could expose criminals. They said that if they suspected you, they would cut you with a spiritual machete. If you didn't bleed, it meant you were guilty. I don't know, confusing, who knows. They had 13 failed attempts to capture Eddy. This man would just vanish. Some people swore that he had powers to teleport, that he would be inside one room and appear in another. But by November 2000, the Bakassi boys had had enough. They got word that Eddy was in his village and that he was sleeping. And this time, they came heavy and prepared. At 4 a.m., they stormed his compound, broke down his door, dragged him out of his bed in his shorts. His wife was screaming, kids crying. They tied his hands, ransacked his entire house, allegedly took, they were looking for guns and charms. They took his cars, they took 15 other young men who were in the house with him. All of them, they threw into a convoy of trucks. They drove him straight to Onitsha, to their base known as White House. And that's where things went very dark. For 5 days, Eddy was tortured. Machete beatings, kicks, stabbings. And then they kept asking him to confess. He kept saying he was innocent. At one point, they allegedly asked him for 2 million naira to release him. Nobody knows if that's true, but that's the gist. Meanwhile, his wife was running around, calling the governor, begging the police, writing letters to federal government. Nobody helped. One of the governor's aides even said, Eddy never paid homage to the governor, now why should we help him? Can you imagine? Then on November 9, 2000, Bakassi boys took him to Ochanja roundabout in broad daylight. In front of a crowd, they beheaded him. They cut off his arms and his legs. They burned his body right there with tires. No court, no judge, just knives and fire. They claimed it was mob action, but witnesses said it was clearly Bakassi boys that did it. And guess what? Nobody was ever arrested for it. Nobody was punished. Case closed. After he died, there was a split reaction. Like, some people celebrated. They said he got what he deserved, that he was a ritualist and he was hiding behind the Bible. Others said, this is jungle justice. Even if he was guilty, he should have been tried in court, you know. And of course, Nollywood wasted no time making movies about this. Movies like Isakaba, Onya Amuma, The Last Prophet, they were all based on Eddy. The false prophet character, yes, that was Eddy. In fact, some people today think that his story was just movie fiction. They don't know that it really happened. But ask anybody from Anambra who lived through it. Eddy Nawgu was real. His rise was loud. His fall was violent and even louder. And whether you believe that he was a prophet or a criminal, his name still shakes people till today. Let me know in the comments, do you think Eddy was actually guilty, or was he just too powerful for his own good? Should the Bakassi boys have taken justice into their own hands? Follow for more true crime stories on my channel. Thank you.